Welcome to See You Next Tuesday. I'm Jade Chung. My very first independent booking was actually from Scott D'Amore for his promotion, Border City Wrestling, that was based out of Windsor, Ontario. The first show, however, for me was actually in Michigan when they were having shows at the Diamondback Saloon. Literally, I have no idea how I got so lucky, probably just right time and place. I showed up to his Michigan show. He came up to me about an hour later and he asked, "Do you have your stuff?" I said, "Yes, of course I do." And he said, "Great. Tonight you're walking out with the franchise Shane Douglas." And I said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you. Great." To be given that opportunity, I truly do count my lucky stars. Shane Douglas could not have been the most perfect person for me to learn from. That night, Shane Douglas had a championship title match where he won the belt. So not only did I get to manage Shane Douglas, but he won the belt that night. And so, yeah, I was feeling really good. But having to be able to manage Shane was a true blessing. He is such a humble guy, such an amazing person. I would ask him for advice after his match, and he would give me advice. He would actually sit down with me and go through things and tell me, what I should have done, or what was good. And it helped me. And not only that, because his personality is just so full, I also learned to be outgoing pretty much from him, working on facials, working on expressions, and you're just using your whole body to speak. I was truly lucky to be able to be paired up with Shane, and honestly, I cannot thank Scott D'Amore enough. I should probably tell him that, and not just over my podcast, but what an amazing time. I loved my time at Border City Wrestling. Obviously, they have a very special place in my heart, being my very first promotion to ever really book me. That is why on episode 5, I am so ecstatic to have my longtime friend, Jeff Kavanaugh, come on here, share stories, make you laugh. He's an amazing person that you need to follow. And his stories, oh my goodness, he's got countless stories. I cannot tell you. I'll just be like, "Oh, tell me the time where blah, 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 blah." And he'll be like, "Yeah, okay, I got a story." He's got stories for days, for months, for years. And not only that, he is hella funny. I never say hella. Who says that? I don't say hella. He is so funny. It's ridiculous. I don't understand how he's not a stand-up comedian. The guy literally makes you cry from laughing. Anyway, let me stop talking and let me bring him on. I've got my laughing pants on and I'm ready. Absolutely ready to welcome Jeff Kavanaugh, otherwise known as Junk Food Jeff. How are you, Jeff?
Oh my God, thanks so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a couple weeks since you asked me. So thanks for having me on.
I'm so excited because I'm absolutely ready for a night of pure laughter.
There you go.
If you guys don't know Jeff, you need to know Jeff. He is such a fun guy to be around. There was never a moment where I'm serious for 1 minute straight. It's impossible not to just laugh in your presence. And not because I'm laughing at you, but
right. There's also a rumor going around. I don't know who's spreading it. It might be me. That your kid was actually born premature because I made you laugh so much at the Destiny show.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I didn't give you credit when I was talking about my water breaking at Destiny Wrestling.
A lot of women don't credit for things anyways. So
oh my gosh. Yeah. Jeff had me laughing the entire day. And literally my belly jet was bouncing up and down, just pure laughter
And I made
From
the
Jeff.
joke. I said, I better not make you laugh too much because I'm going to go home and find out that you went into premature labor.
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
legitimately wake up the next morning, go on Facebook and find out you went into premature labor. And I'm like, holy fuck. I was just joking. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you, you know? But it all worked out in the end. You got a beautiful son there, and he looks like he's always keeping you busy. It's good to see your stuff on social media.
Thank you. Yes, he keeps me super busy.
Yeah, exactly. Hence why we have to do a podcast so late in the day.
Yes, in the night.
In the night, right.
So we met at Border City Wrestling.
Yeah, what year did you start with Border City Wrestling?
2003.
2003. That's what I thought it was 2004, but 2003 makes sense. Now, you were at the Chichero Club shows?
The
Diamondback show you
Yep.
started at?
That was my first show in Michigan. I don't remember the bars in Windsor at all.
Yeah, Octane was one. That's the one we did most of our shows in. But then, like, the big club, the big Italian wedding club, the Chichero Club, where we used to run, those were our biggest shows.
Oh,
and I think we were a couple of those.
Once, yeah. There was like a big balcony or something. It's huge, right?
Right, huge.
Out of like, right. It's like in the middle of nowhere.
For those of you who don't know, I run Border City Wrestling down here in Windsor. If you're a wrestling fan, you've probably heard of it. It's like Scott D'Amore from Impact owns it and basically makes me run it. And, you know, everyone still calls it Scott D'Amore's Border City Wrestling. So lucky me. No, but we've been doing it for, well, if you don't count the pandemic, you know, since 93, we've been running shows steady.
Wow.
And I think like you were on the shows 10 years in, and now it's like almost 30 years. Does it make you feel old?
I was in grade 3 when you started then.
You were?
Yes.
Oh my God. Hilarious. Yeah. We were running shows in LaSalle Arena, which is like LaSalle is just outside of Windsor. It's where Scott grew up, and Scott worked for the Parks and Recreation Department. So we would go to the arena there. And we would run little small shows from like 93 all the way to like 98. We ran there, 97, 98. And then we did one show where we brought The Rock. It was the only show that The Rock ever did outside of WWE. And we had
the only show. How?
So what happened was Scott and D'Lo were good friends because D'Lo wrestled with us before going to WWE. And I think Scott said something like, if there's ever, or D'Lo said, you know, if there's ever anything I can do for you, let me know. And I think Scott jokingly said, oh, if you can get, you know, the Nation of Domination to come to a Border City Wrestling show, you know, that would make up for it. We were kind of like half joking. And D'Lo talked to Rock about it, and Rock said he was interested. They got it cleared with the office, and we started advertising, and we just kept thinking the whole time, like, this just seems like too good to be true. You know what I mean? Like, are they gonna cancel him at the last minute or anything? You know?
Yeah.
So a week before the show in Windsor, WWE ran Skydome, and Scott and myself went there to the show, and we were sitting in the TSN, the what do they call those, luxury box? The one that TSN,
the box suites or something like that. Yeah,
because off the record there, Michael
Landsberg
invited us so we could stay in the thing. So we're standing around, you know, grabbing a bite to eat and whatnot, and in the booth, and then you just hear the whole crowd make like this noise, and we were like, oh, what just happened? Like, oh, I think The Rock just blew his knee out. And me and Scott each other like, no. You know what I mean? Like, please no. Because like we had been doing shows, and up to that point, you know, we had drawn anywhere from 100 to 400 people. Well, this show with The Rock, we'd already sold, you know, up to like over 1,000 tickets, which is like double, triple what we usually got for a show, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we talked to them, and they said, we talked to Rock, and Rock said he could still do it, but it was supposed to be Scott versus The Rock and D'Lo versus Larry Destiny. But instead, because of his knee injury, we decided, well, we're going to do a tag match instead. We'll do Rock and D'Lo versus Scott and Larry Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And WWE said he could still do it, but they wanted D'Lo to do most of the heavy lifting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, once we got there, The Rock was like so amped up about being like at the show that he did everything. He did his greatest hits. He took the hot tag. He did the through the elbow pad, people's elbow, rock bottom, the whole 9 yards. The
Wow.
place left there. So our fans to this day still bring that up to us. It's one of our most iconic moments for sure.
Yeah,
And
no kidding.
it was the following Monday after our show. So our show, I think, was on a Saturday. The following Monday, WWE passed the edict that no WWE wrestlers can do independent wrestling shows anymore.
Oh.
We were literally the last. We were the first show that Rock ever did outside WWE, and the last show that WWE ever loaned talent away to.
Wow.
So, and that's really what put us on the map. And our shows after that started really gaining momentum.
That's amazing. That's awesome. How
Yeah,
did you and Scott meet?
like so before it was Border City, him and the Doug Chevalier, the original Canadian destroyer, the guy that the move is named after,
Hmm.
was the original trainers in Windsor, and they decided to run their own wrestling show in a town called Amherstburg, which is about a half hour from Windsor. And I was just sitting in my room. I was in I was probably in either grade 12 or grade 13, or OAC as the insiders would call
Yeah.
it. And
I was the last year for OAC.
were you?
Yeah.
They thought, you know what? Forget this free education. Let's make these people start paying for it. You know what I mean, they saw what you did with it, nothing, and they thought it was a waste of money, and they moved on. No, so I was sitting in my room, and my dad came downstairs with the newspaper, and he threw the sports section at me, and he said, "Hey, did you know there was wrestling in Amherstburg on the weekend?" And I was a wrestling fanatic growing up. Like, if there was anyone wrestling or anything wrestling on TV, like if Ricky Steamboat did a cameo on a TV show, I'd watch it. If a wrestler was getting interviewed on, like, I don't know, the worst TV show you could possibly think of, I'd watch it just because I knew a wrestler was going to be on it. So when I knew there was wrestling in Amherstburg, I was bummed out. So back then, there used to be a thing called a phone book. You kids maybe, and Chuck Fader was the promoter of the show, and he was the one that was quoted in the article. So I did what every other normal person would do and looked up Chuck Fader's name in the white page. And literally there was one dude in there named Chuck Fader, and I called and I'm like, "Hey, is this Chuck Fader?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Chuck Fader from Border City Wrestling?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what do I got to do to get involved?" And he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Everything. I want to wrestle. I want to sell tickets. I want to build the ring. I want to sell the popcorn. Like, I want to do everything." So he said, "Okay." He'll get me in touch with Scott, because Scott was going to be opening a wrestling school coming in May, and this was around April or March. So I said, "Okay, well, I want to sign up for the wrestling school for sure. But until then, is there anything I can do?" And they're like, "Well, we have a show coming up. If you want," I'm like, "I can hand out flyers. I can sell tickets. I'll do whatever." Because I just wanted to be involved with wrestling. Like, that has been my dream my whole life. You know what I mean? So I started doing that. And basically I was just like selling tickets and hanging flyers and doing stuff like that. And then eventually I was taking journalism in college, and I thought I could use that to my advantage. So I decided to just on my own make a Border City Wrestling program, and I put my own like angles and ideas and stuff in it, like as part of like a rumors, like a news and rumors type thing, where it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
"I heard these guys might break up as a tag team," and stuff like just stuff that I was fantasy booking in my own mind. And Scott actually started asking me about some of my ideas and using some of the stuff that I had put in the program. And then around 90, well, right after The Rock, so probably 98, 99, Chuck got diagnosed with having cancer and had to step away from the wrestling.
Hmm.
And Scott said to me, "Would you like to be more involved? I'd like to take you on as partner." And I said, "Well, I would love to be a partner." I said, "I can't really, afford to buy Chuck's half of the company." And Scott basically said that, he would give me his half. He would pay Chuck out and give me his half because I worked so hard. He gave it to me for sweat equity. So, which means it didn't cost.
Wow.
And that was like 13 years ago. And I still work just as hard today with it as I did back then, because it's one of the things that I really, really love about. I just like producing shows because I want the Jeff Kavanaugh, 8-year-old Jeff Kavanaughs of the world to have the same excitement and fun that I had from going to local shows. Because we couldn't afford to go to, WWE
Yeah.
shows all the time. So if I knew that there was a more local, more homegrown thing that I could give to kids, like we have a lot of underprivileged kids, a lot of disabled kids that, it would be too much trouble for them to go over to Detroit to watch a match,
Right.
and we like to take care of those guys and give them kind of that same experience. Like when we have the wrestlers in, we have a lot of like the kids that have, been given a crappy hand in life, and we'll bring them backstage and we'll have them meet whomever we have in for that show, and it kind of gives them a little bit of a. I still get messages from some of the parents of these kids like years later saying, "Oh my God, I still remember this day. You guys are so awesome. You made my kid's day," and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I do it for, that and the money, but mostly the first.
I love that story. I've never heard that before. But first, imagine doing what you did, calling Chuck like
Right.
Today, like the now,
Right.
the present. I'd be
I'd have
like,
to
you
check 'em.
psycho.
I know, but like you're like, oh my God, how else would I know how to get a hold of these people? Do you know what I mean? Like, so I was just like a dumb 17-year-old kid. I'm like, well, I'll just call the guy on the phone, you know what I mean? And hope that it's him. And it worked out.
Dang, good for you.
Yeah. So
Also, that
that's,
took a lot of balls.
but I wanted to be in wrestling so bad. You have no idea. I love wrestling. Like since I was a little kid, like first time I saw wrestling, I was hooked on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things where like, I've had a million jobs, a million relationships, lived in a million places. And when it's all said and done, the one thing that I still have is wrestling. Like
Yeah.
I've thrown out a lot of shirts, a lot of bad girlfriends, and lived in a lot of bad apartments. But to this day, I still have Border City Wrestling. I still have wrestling in general that I can always go to whenever. I don't know. It's like the girl. I don't know. I just feel like she's, wrestling is like the girl that will never screw me over, never cheat on me, never leave me, never hurt me.
Yeah.
Well, it hurts me a lot, but I mean, it won't leave me. Yeah.
Wrestling will always be an outlet, I think, for everyone, no matter what.
All stuff. Where else can you take if your skill, like skill set that I have is in promoting and social media and all the things that make a good promoter, as well as like the day of the show. I think I do pretty good as like the event host / ring announcer and running the VIP and like all the other stuff that I try to bite off as much as I can, so that I don't know, I just like to make I just want everybody to have a good time and to leave thinking, man, this was worth our time and money to go to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So did you have hand in like talent relations and all that?
With Border City, absolutely. It's always coming down to Scott D'Amore has the final say, no matter what anyone wants to say. But I mean, he's not like a tyrant. He'll listen to ideas. You know what I mean? He'll even listen to bad ideas and tell you they're a bad idea, and he'll tell you why it's a bad idea. But that's how you learn. Like I've pitched probably a million bad ideas, and then it's not until after someone tells you why it's a bad idea do you realize, oh yeah, I guess that was kind of a bad idea.
I didn't know you had half of BCW.
No,
Like not until you just told me right now that BCW is yours, and people just think Scott's BCW because that's what I think.
Right.
This entire time.
Right. So since then, we did those shows, like I talked about, the ones at Octane from like 2000. They were in that strip club. Not strip club, strip plaza, like a strip.
Easy there.
Yeah, it wasn't a strip club. Strip plaza, bar inside.
That was the after party.
Right. Yeah. No, but there used to be another group in Windsor. They were called Ontario Championship Wrestling, and that was made up of like a couple guys that had quit Border City. It's like, well, like I said, a lot of people like to pitch a lot of bad ideas, and even when Scott tells them why it's a bad idea, some people don't understand, and they go and leave and start their own promotion. But that's for another podcast for another day. But what happened was they're the ones that brokered that deal with the nightclub, where the nightclub was basically, they had no business on Sundays. So they thought if they could run a matinee wrestling show in there, bare bones, with only like 5 matches on it, they could get enough people in there to order food, order drinks, and they'd pay us, they wouldn't charge us rent, and they gave us money towards the insurance and whatnot. So when Scott found out they had that deal, he had just cranked out about a bunch of students. Like I'm talking like Petey Williams and Saban, and those guys were just coming out of our school and had really nowhere locally, that they could run on a consistent basis and get some ring time in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott thought, well, if we can partner with those guys from OCW and take their deal that they've got with that bar, then we've got a place for these guys to, the Petey's and the Sabins and Shelleys and everyone from that generation,
Yep.
For them, somewhere for them to work. And so Scott partnered with them, and two of the guys quit. And the one that stuck around, his name is James Trepanier, and he's still.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So James is now partner with me and Scott. So it's the three of us now since 2000, I don't know, 9 or 10. He would probably know better than I would.
Oh, he was there when I was there.
He was doing the music probably. So yeah, so that's when you would have met him. It's when he finally just first joined Border City. So that's me, Scott, and James basically run Border City to this day. James does all the social media and the tickets. Mm-hmm. And then I do all the other stuff promotion wise. And then Scott, pays the bills and does the booking and books the wrestlers.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Well, that's why you do a nice podcast like this. And now everybody can know.
So then who booked me? Was it you or Scott?
Scott. I was stroke to book anybody at that point. Plus, I didn't even know if I even knew you.
I was traveling. I think I might have gone to one other BCW show before that. Yeah. And then I was told to come show up to Michigan.
Yeah.
Just to showcase.
Who were you riding with back then?
Oh, I can't remember. I probably want to say Ash or Hornet.
Right. Yeah. So it's probably those guys, right? Chambers, Hornet, Ash, that whole group.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then you started managing Al?
No, I started managing Shane Douglas.
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah.
You went right to the top of the card with that one.
He somehow trusted me.
Yeah.
Or just really needed a female.
Yeah. Well, maybe a little bit of both. Were you ever on a show with Anna Fantasy?
No.
She was Fantasy? And she was like the syndicate cheerleader, whatever?
No, she wasn't there.
I think she was like the last girl that we had before you at that point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because then it was me, and then like the next couple shows, he got Angel to manage Shane's opponent for me, and then he brought in Becky Bayless as well.
Yes, because Jimmy Jacobs, I think, was dating Becky at the time.
Yeah.
And then you ended up managing, was it Al or a tag team? Were you managing Nate and...
No. It was, okay, first it was Shane, right? Because I'm remembering pictures of at the Diamondback. At the Diamondback, I was only with Shane, but Shane, he teamed up with the Syndicate. So it was, what's his name? This guy was like a brick. I can't remember. He grouped up with a few other guys. You know the guy with the singlet that was he wore a velvet singlet.
Wore a velvet singlet.
Big guy. I forget his name. He was really nice. I remember he was part of it, and some other guy. I'm seeing the Syndicate T-shirt in my head, but I can't remember who it was. Anyway,
Geza Kalman or Dyson Price?
Dyson Price. Yeah.
Dyson Price.
So whoever he was with.
Yeah, so him and Geza were a tag team for a while. Were you with them?
I didn't know. No. Shane was like grouping up with them.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh,
and it was against Sabu or something, I think. Either Sabu or Raven.
It was against Sabu or against D'Lo. I'm trying to remember who you guys were feuding with. I'm going to look up the Border City cage match while we're talking, because I'm pretty sure there's something we're missing here.
Yeah. It's at the Diamondback. But it wasn't until later, after the Diamondback and after Shane lost his belt, We were back at the Windsor bars, and that's when I started managing A1.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling back here to see Diamondback from 2004. Shane Douglas with Jade Chung beat Sabu with Becky Bayless,
Hmm.
and that was April 25th, 2004. And then March, you were Raven and Sabu versus Dyson and Shane with Jade Chung.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go.
And then, even before that, 2003, Shane Douglas with Jade Chung defeated Raven. That was in Belleville as well.
Hmm.
And then, were you on this thing? No. So you must have started then. So you must have started
Yeah,
November,
November. Yeah.
November
No,
20.
September, no?
Let me scroll back. September in Toronto at Varsity Arena. Did you do a show with us there?
Oh, no, then that's where I showed up. That's the show that I showed up and I was told to show up in Michigan if I really want to get booked.
Yeah, because that was
Oh,
9 days later.
yes,
That
yes, yes. Oh, wow.
That's crazy. Yeah, on that show it was Jamie D and Johnny Bravo, Colt Cabana, Chuck Wagon, Gutter, Dyson, Petey Williams, Monty Brown, Saban, Shane Douglas, and D'Lo. That's crazy.
Yeah, what an amazing debut for me. Like
Yeah, and
to
then
be told,
you managed Frankie Kazarian for one show against
yeah,
Chris Saban, and that was at Dylan's nightclub,
yeah.
which is that place I was telling you about. And then what did you do on this show?
Well, my debut, Scott puts me with Shane Douglas, and then he goes over for the heavyweight title. I was like, wow,
Right. You're like,
dang,
well,
okay.
that's all he was missing from his game this entire time was your advice and
There
two
you go.
in his whole career. He should have had you with him in ECW when you were 3 or whatever, grade 3.
Forget Francine. It was me
Right.
all along. He needed me all
Exactly.
along.
No, but that's awesome. And then when did you stop coming around? Because I think
um,
did you end up leaving to go to Ring of Honor after us?
yeah, so it was 2005 because I was getting booked a lot in Michigan and Ohio, and then I was getting flown to New Jersey to do the NWA shows there.
Yeah, I'm looking at here. You did one Diamondback in April 2005. I don't see your name on anything after that. Oh,
What
wait,
was?
here you are here. No, you did our show in 2008.
Oh yeah, I came back. Yeah.
Wow, you know what's crazy about that match? So that was our first show. So we did that show in 2006 with it was WrestleFest, and then we stopped running for 2 years, Border City. And when we came back, we had that girls tag team match,
Oh
and
yes, that's right.
it was Haley Rogers and Jade Chung, and that was Kat Power's debut
Yeah,
against Jennifer Blake and PJ Tyler, which is Rosemary's debut.
yeah, yeah.
And Rosemary went to give Kat the chin buster and blew her face up into a million pieces. Do you remember?
Yeah, yes, I do.
She grabbed her by the back of the head and exploded Kat's face into like a million shards of glass. It's like, oh my God, there was blood everywhere, all over the place. And then you took off. And then when we didn't see you,
I took a break. Um, I went back to school 2011, and then I came back into wrestling in 2015.
wow.
Yeah. And
And
then
what brought you back?
I did those
What
shows.
brought you back?
My mom was really sick and I was obsessed with taking care of her. Just would never, I was always at the hospital for 12 hours each day if I didn't have to work on the weekends at the nightclub. And it came to the point, like after a year, I started feeling kind of depressed. Not depressed, but I knew that I needed to do something for myself. My mom's condition wasn't getting any better. Uh, Her memory was awful. So there's just so much that I could do, that I could help out. So I knew that I needed to do something for myself, and I knew I needed to be happy again or just be distracted.
Right.
So Ash actually reached out and asked if I wanted to get back into it. And at first he was just going to have me, I forget what he was going to do, like probably have me just ring announce or something. I can't remember what it was, but somebody else told, oh, it was like Kingdom saying, no, you got to have her manage. You're going to get her to manage. And he wanted me to manage with him. It was the perfect timing. I needed it so bad. And once again, wrestling was my outlet. Wrestling was my lifesaver. And that's how I got into it. 2015, January was the first show back. And then I did a couple shows for you guys.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. You did the show at the Legion, the Heatwave show, where you managed Joe Coleman against Movado.
Oh, yep, yep, yep.
And then the next month we did the big show at St. Clair College where you managed Swinger.
Yeah, I managed him twice.
Against Moose.
Yeah, with Scarlett in his corner.
Yes. Crazy, right?
Yeah. And
all
then
these
there was
names
another
are so
one.
funny when you look back and you see some of these things and you just laugh because you're like, I can't believe, you know.
That was a good, nice trip down memory lane. I'm glad you Googled that.
It's so much fun. And like, I didn't see you for like 7 years, but we like the thing with the wrestling business, it's very strange. Like, you cannot see someone for 7 years and then walk immediately into a conversation with them as if you had, like, you just talked yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's what I love about it. Like, you may not see someone for years. Like Eric Young, you think about it, he wrestled with us, left, went to TNA, left, went to WWE. And then when he came back to wrestle for Border City and I see him and it's just, we're back to laughing about the same nonsense that we were laughing about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we never even skipped a beat. And that's what I love the most about it. It's like, you know, that you always have brothers and sisters there.
Yes. But also it has to do with certain people being good human beings, right? So like their head hasn't blown up and
we all know some of those people.
Yes.
Think about it. I've been doing it for 28 years. I've seen some like there's a very, very, very famous person that's wrestles on TV now that, like, to me, and I won't say his name because I don't want to turn this into a thing, but it's like, I don't think he remembers, you know, where he came from.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the shitty trips to Cleveland where we're sleeping on some dude's floor and stuff, like all that in 93. Like, I'm talking like we slept on some guy's floor Father's Day 93, you know what I mean? Or 94. And now this person's like a mega star. And I run into him in Toronto and ask him how he's doing. And he's so guarded and so protective, as if like I'm going to ask him for a job, or I'm going to, you know, dude, I've never asked anyone. I've never even asked Scott for anything before. Like, I'm not that kind of person. Mm-hmm. I'm the kind of person where, you know, what I bring to the table. If that's what you want for your show, ask me. Like, I'm not one of these guys who's like, oh, can you get me a job in WWE? Like, it's not that. I know that, number one, no one can just get someone a job in WWE. And number two, a job with WWE isn't what everybody thinks it is. Like, well, now that I've been doing this and I've been doing stuff with Impact, you realize that there's more to wrestling than the 8 minutes that's involved in the ring. Mm-hmm. It's the other 8 hours where you have to deal with these people as business people and as human beings, where you really get to know who's cool and who's not, and who's annoying and who whines, and why this person isn't more successful in life. You know, you see these guys and you think, how come this guy's not a world champion? And I just know in the back of my mind exactly why. Because, you know, the guy's a pain in the ass to deal with backstage, or he's always late, or he always complains. Like, nobody knows that part of the wrestling.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is, like, the fans will say, like, well, so-and-so should have been world champion. And you think to yourself, but like, these fans, they only know the character on TV. Like, they don't know, like, there's a lot of people out there who, you don't know what their dreams and aspirations are in life. Maybe there's some people who don't want to be champion and don't want what comes with, you know what I mean? Like, I bet you, like, Seth Rollins, when he's champion, I bet you his life is a lot harder than when he's not champion, because you're doing more I'm talking pre-COVID. I'm saying, more media, more trips to places. Now you're going to the PlayStation conference and the Mattel Toys conference and the whatever. But if you're just a dude that just wants to wrestle every week and show up and wrestle and that's it, there's spots for that as well. And just because, you know, that person's not getting pushed, maybe it's that person doesn't want to be pushed. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't know that person. Maybe that person is an asshole to everybody backstage, shows up late, never does what they're told. But, you know, you see them on TV and they do fantastic moves. But at the end of the day, there's more to wrestling than the guy that can do the most fantastic moves.
Yep. Now, pre-COVID, were you not helping out with Impact as well?
Yeah. So what happened was Bound for Glory was 2017 in Ottawa. And this is about a week before or 2 weeks before the pay-per-view when Scott and Jeff had just taken back over Impact from Dixie.
Mm-hmm.
They said, we need to find a bilingual ring announcer. We'd love to have a bilingual ring announcer, someone that can do English and French, right? So Scott called me and said, "Hey, Impact wants to use a bilingual ring announcer. Do you know English and French?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I took French all the way to OAC. I can make my way through a French, whatever." And he's like, "Okay." He's like, "Well, then sharpen up on your French. You're booked for 5 days in Ottawa."
Nice.
So immediately I posted on Facebook, "Okay, who here knows French?" And my buddy Kevin, who's since passed away from cancer,
Oh.
his wife was a French teacher in a grade school. And I got on the phone with her and I said, "Okay, teach me how to say, the following contest is scheduled for one fall. How do I say, coming to the ring from so and so, and here is your winner, or as a result of a disqualification." So I learned all these little nuancy things, like just in case I needed to, know it.
Yeah.
And then the day of the show, they tell me at like 5:30, "Yeah, we're canceling the French. Just do English announcing. That's fine." And there's me in the background and me backstage going, "Le premier match est prévu pour une chute. Le premier match is prévu pour une chute." And they're like, "Yeah, you don't need to know French." I'm like, "Oh, thank God. I probably would have botched it anyway." And then the best part is, um, so earlier in the day, they were doing like a Facebook live stream, and it was like Josh Matthews and Jeremy Borash, and they were kind of just doing like live from in the arena kind of thing from like at like 5 o'clock. And I just happened to be walking by, and they were like, and Jeremy Borash was like, "Drum Boy, come on over here, Drum Boy." Drum Boy is that's my wrestling nickname. If people are wondering who the hell's Drum Boy, and he's like, "Drum Boy, come over here. This is our new bilingual ring announcer, Drum Boy, whatever, blah blah blah." And then I
But
remember after
why?
that,
Why were you called Drum Boy?
well, so that was a name that Edge and Christian came up with in like 1996 because I had like a regular shaped body, but then I just had like a beer belly, but like not from drinking beer, but from eating too much pop and chips. You know what I mean? Hence the name Junk Food Jeff. So they would call it my drum. They wouldn't call me Drum Boy at first. They would just say, "Oh, look at Jeff and his drum." And everything was about my belly, right? Because I had like a normal arms, normal torso, normal legs, everything, but just this little like Haitian distended belly thing sticking, right? I still have now, but the rest of my body's kind of catching up to it. And they used to call me the guy with the drum, whatever. And then they just started calling me Drum Boy. So funny story. So Edge and Christian finally go signed with WWE, and Tommy Dreamer had already done his run with Border City, and he had just signed with WWE. And they told me a funny story once. They were in the car playing the wrestler name game where I say a name and the last letter of the last name, you have to think of the first name of someone else,
Yeah.
So like Jade Chung, I got to think of a G name. So I'd say Greg Valentine, and Valentine ends with an E. So then someone would say Eric Bischoff, but you can't repeat names. So now
Oh,
they're playing for hours, and Tommy Dreamer gets D, and he's just racking his brain on who he could say starts with a D.
that's
And he has
easy.
no idea that Adam and Jay know who I am. So he just goes, Drum Boy? And immediately Edge and Christian are like, "You know Drum Boy? How the hell do you know Drum Boy?" And they spent the rest of their car not playing the name game, but actually telling messed up stories about stupid things that I'd done or said in my life. So that made me infamous with Dreamer and those guys. And then just the name Drum Boy just always stuck. And it was even funny too, because I remember when I met Mikey Whipwreck, and he comes up to me and he says, "Who's this guy Drum Boy they keep talking about?" And I said, "That's me." And he goes, "That's you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, okay, shit. I was wondering who they're talking about, whatever, blah, blah, blah." So about an hour later, he comes up to me and he goes, What's your nickname again? Pig Boy? I said, no, 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 not Pig Boy. Let's not start a new Drum Boy's bad enough. I don't need Pig Boy. Like, Drum Boy's at least not insulting. Pig Boy sounds like, come here, piggy. So then he's like, an hour later, he's like, what's your name again? Potbelly Pig? And I'm like, no, 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 no,
Jeez.
no, no. Drum Boy, not Potbelly Pig. So he starts calling me Potbelly Pig because he knows how mad I'm getting about it, right? So then he would always call me PBP for short because he was sick of calling me Potbelly Pig. So he'd call me PBP. And luckily, he retired from wrestling, and I never had to hear that nickname again until right now. I brought it up to you. But yeah, so that's the origination of the Drum Boy name, which I don't know what story I was telling to get into this. Oh, so after I did the live thing with Impact, I went back on Facebook to see the comments to see if anyone was like saying anything about me because that's how wrestlers are. You know what I mean? And I go on the live stream and I go back to the comments. And everyone's like, "Who's this guy? Where's Dave Penzer? Who is this fat idiot? Who's this loser? And where's Dave Penzer?" Like, all the comments are all like, "Where's Dave Penzer? This guy sucks," and all this stuff. I hadn't even done anything yet except say hello on Facebook and get introduced as the new bilingual ring announcer. So then the funniest thing is the very first match I think I had to introduce that night was a 6-man match, and it was like 3 guys from Mexico versus 3 Impact guys. And Tejano Jr.,
No.
the wrestler from Mexico, Tejano. So anyway, his
No.
name is spelled Texano, right?
Oh.
So I announced him as Texano because I had no
Oh, yeah.
I had no
Yeah,
freaking
I wouldn't
idea.
either.
Right. So I announced him as Texano Jr., whatever. No big deal. No one says nothing to me afterward. But the funniest thing was when I went on Twitter that night just to see what everybody thought of my work. That was my first, okay, this is wrestling Twitter, because I got annihilated on there, like beyond annihilated, to the point where like I lost all my confidence that night just from
Oh,
reading.
no.
Yeah, lost all my confidence just from reading these Twitter comments. And the one comment that I do remember that I will laugh at was someone goes, "Who is this effing guy?" And someone goes, "He's their new bilingual ring announcer." And the guy goes, "What 2 languages? One of them ain't Mexican, or one of them ain't Spanish, because he doesn't even know how to pronounce Texano or Tejano Jr." So I remember I stayed up till 3 a.m. I read every single comment about my ring announcing, and I was just devastated. I was crushed. Do you know what I mean? To the point where I'm like, I don't think I can do the show tomorrow. Like, I have zero confidence. Like,
Oh, no.
it destroyed me. So I get to the thing the next day, and I said to Scott, I said, "Listen, man, I don't know what's going on." I'm like, "But I'm a wreck. I can't believe it." And he's like, "Well, that's why you shouldn't be looking at Twitter. They don't know what the hell. They don't know what they're talking about anyway." And I was like, "Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, if I'm as bad as everyone's saying I am, then why the hell do you even want me here? You know what I mean? I'm like, is this like a mercy hire? Like, that's how bad I was getting." And the
Oh.
one thing that Scott said to me that really kind of shook me out of it was, It doesn't matter what any of those people think. I liked your work, and I want you here, and I'm the one that paid you. So shut up and just go to work." So that's what I did, and I don't ever look at that shit anymore because it's just not worth it. Because nobody says
Yeah.
anything positive anyway.
Right. Right.
But I did
Can
get
you
burned pretty good in there a couple times. There was a couple ones I wish, like, if I had said it to someone else, I'd be high fiving people, like some burns that people had done to me. But it was all right. I'm over it now. Like I said, it was 4 years ago, and since then, I mean, I've done. I don't know. I did
you
probably
did all the
half.
Canadian shows, no?
I did all their Canadian shows. Plus, I also ended up going to Vegas twice, Texas,
Mexico?
Chicago. I did Chicago Bound for Glory, and they were getting ready to send me to Japan for the end of March when COVID hit, and
Oh.
so they still have. So the good thing is they still have a $2,000 plane ticket under my name to Japan, and a room reservation under my name in Japan. So I'm hoping that they don't need anyone else named Jeff Kavanaugh that does a better job than me that can take my ticket. You know what I mean?
Highly doubt
So
it.
I'm
Can
hoping
you
that still comes through because I'd love to go to Japan.
Yeah, no kidding.
But who knows nowadays if we're ever going to have traveling wrestling ever again? It feels, it feels pretty dire at this point. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you base off what they're doing in the States, we'll be wrestling by next week.
I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I hope it's sometime this year, but at the same time, I don't want to do it willy nilly. I want to do it where everybody's safe and everyone has a good time and nobody gets sick.
Yeah.
Imagine being the show that ends up being a super spreader event. You're the promoter of it.
No.
Went to the Border City show and killed my entire family. Oh, great.
Jeez.
You know, boy, that was a good time. Put that in our, make sure you put that in your Yelp review.
Do you have like at least one super funny story about Scott?
A super funny story about Scott. Oh my God. I really have to I wasn't expecting this, so I have to think about it for a minute. He's a pretty funny guy. Like if you get to know him like personally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not like how he is on TV is coincidentally how he is in real life as well. Like very sarcastic and very like, if you watch him on Impact, when like someone goes up to him and says, "Hey, I think it'd be a great idea if I fought Moose for the world title," and Scott's like, "Absolutely, that's a great idea." Like, that's the way he is. I remember we did a time. You'll love this one. Sabu no shows. One of his many no shows that he did to us over the course of his career, and we're sitting there, and this is the night that Tommy Dreamer is supposed to debut, and what's supposed to happen was D'Amore was supposed to win. Was supposed to beat Sabu for the title. And as he's celebrating with the Syndicate, Dreamer's music hits because ECW had just went out of business. And this was going to be our huge, our holy F surprise,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so Sabu doesn't show up. So we're trying to think, okay, well, what the hell can we do instead? You know what I mean? And we're sitting in this office and it's me and Scott and maybe one or two other people, and everyone's racking their brain what to do. And there's a knock on Scott's door. It's one of the underneath wrestlers. Like maybe he's had 8 matches in his life, and he walks in and Scott's like, "What's up?" And he sees that everybody in the meeting is obviously very tense, and the guy goes, you know what? What I got to talk about isn't that important. I'm going to get out of here. Scott goes, No, you took the time to come down here and knock on the door. You could at least tell us what the hell you came here for. And all I'm thinking is I'm trying to subliminally tell this guy, leave, get out of here, because you just ruined yourself, right? And Scott's like, no, tell me, what's this great idea that, you had? And the guy's like, you know what? Now that I'm here and I'm thinking about it, maybe this isn't such a great idea. And you know what? I'll just let you guys get back to whatever you're. Scott's like, no. Scott's like, no, we're gonna put the main event angle on hold because the underneath guy here has something to say or something like that, right? And I'm thinking to myself, just go, get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, dude, get out of here. And the guy's like, well, I was thinking about maybe changing my name. Scott's like, oh my God. Scott's like, oh my God, really? And he's super sarcastic. He's like, you're thinking about changing your name? What were you thinking? And I'm staring at the guy like, leave.
I feel so embarrassed right now.
Right. And the guy's like, oh, well, geez, I was kind of thinking about changing my name to Will Power. Just dead silence in the room. Scott goes, okay, so hold on 1 second. He goes, it's 7:25 on a show that starts at 7:30. You're in the second match and you're coming up to me and you want to change your name. And you want to change your name to Will Power? You know what? Now that I think about it, now hearing it coming out of your mouth, it doesn't really sound like a great idea. So you know what? Scott's like, no, I think this is a great idea. Will Power. Oh my God, what a great name. Will Power. Okay, well, now we're going to have to go tell the printing company and the announcer and the website and the commentators. He's like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. Scott's like, no, Will Power. Oh my God. Just doing that to the guy. And I was just like, this must be pure torture for this guy, because it's like you could tell he was going down a road that he was never coming out of alive again.
Oh my gosh. I was like waiting and waiting. I thought you were going to say like a name that everybody knows, like a big name.
No. This is not a big. And you want to hear the best part about this guy? He never really ended up doing anything in the business. You never really seen him ever again. And then like about 8 years later, he showed up to the wrestling school out of nowhere one day. Nobody else was there. He taught class and left, and we never seen him ever again. Everyone's like, hey, do you know a guy named Rocco Da Vinci? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, he came in and taught the school on Wednesday. I'm like, he did? Why? Oh, he came in to see everybody. No one was there except a couple of us. So he taught class. I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
okay, well, that was a thing. He's the same guy that after he fought him and Chris Valentino were fighting for the tag titles. And after the match was over, they're sitting in the locker room and he turns and he looks to Chris and he goes, we were this close, brother, to being the tag team champions, you know? Next time, man, next time. Chris is looking around like, is there a camera on that I'm not familiar with? Or what's going on here? Like this
Oh my
guy.
goodness.
Exactly. My goodness is right. It's funny though. So when I first met Scott, I went to the wrestling school. And this is like 93. And they just bumped the shit out of everybody. Right. This is like wrestling school. You know, I mean, we're still at the end of the, the shit era of like wrestling school where it was like, break the guy's leg and make him never come back after you take his money. That kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Jeez. Okay.
Like, that was the old way of doing it, right? So they would just make you blow up. Like they would just do blow up drills to you until you just puked your guts out, hoping you wouldn't come back, kind of thing. And but I loved wrestling so much that I was like, well, if I'm doing this, Hulk Hogan must have done this, so I'm just gonna forge ahead and keep doing my pukey drills, And I think he was kind of impressed that even though I was the most non-athletic person ever to walk through the wrestling school door, he even calls me like the worst student Can-Am wrestling school's ever had, and that's pretty tall. If you look at some of the losers that have been through there, it's kind of insulting, really, if you think about it. When he's I'm the worst. I mean, there's been way worse than me, I think, but he disagrees. So I guess I'll just be considered the worst wrestling student ever.
So now you mentioned that The Rock worked for BCW.
Right.
You ref that match, correct?
Yeah, that was my first. So Scott would never let me do the main events back then because he wanted me to like work harder at being a better referee to because I was refereeing at the time because he was too cheap to pay for like more than one ref. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
the same reason why I did the website and the same reason I did the ring announcing is because he's too cheap to pay for it. So he just makes me do it. But in a way, it worked out well because now I know how to design flyers. I know how to design websites. Like I can do all that stuff now, and it's because he made me do it. You know what I mean? Which is kind of cool. Like our first website was like www.bordercitywrestling.8k.com/whatever. It was like some free website. And you have Sonny Borelli in there. Don't forget to check us out at bcw.getit.at/8k. People are like, what? Like, this is when the internet first came out. And I'm telling Scott, we need a website. The internet is going to be huge. And Scott's like, the internet is going to be a fad. He told me, the internet's going to be a fad. So he wouldn't let me design a website because he said the internet was going to be a fad. So every once in a while, whenever he gets really pissed off about social media, I always say to him, don't worry, Scott, it's just a fad. It'll go away. He's like, can you believe that I think that the internet was a fad? I'm like, yeah. Do you know that when he first got the internet, he used to have to dictate me his emails and I would email people on his behalf because he didn't know how to email anybody.
When it first came out only?
Yeah, when the internet first came out, like 95, 96, 97.
Oh, okay.
He would dictate to me over the phone all his emails and I would email people and then call them back and read back what they had wrote.
That's hilarious.
Isn't it so crazy?
I actually searched. I don't know what made me. I was looking for a certain email, and I went all the way back to when I started out. I found an email that I had emailed Scott, thanking him for booking me at the Diamondback for the very first show. I'm like, damn, I'm pretty damn professional. Like nobody does that. Nobody does that anymore.
No, if anything, they complain about their spot. Thanks for putting me on the show, but next time if I could not be in the second match, I would really appreciate it. It's like, really? This is your email you're sending? It's like, maybe you shouldn't be sending these out. But that's pretty cool of you.
Jeff and I were talking leading up to the podcast date.
Every time I say something funny, you tell me, save it for the podcast. Save it for the podcast. It's so funny because we'll have these conversations where we feel like, has the wrestling business passed us by? Like the stuff that was so taboo back in the day is what everybody does now. Like even what me and you were talking about a week or so ago about getting pictures taken with people. I hung out with The Rock for 2 whole days, and I was like his babysitter for 2 days. And I don't have a single picture with the guy because back then, if you asked someone for a picture, you were a mark. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're a mark. You're a mark for asking for a picture.
Yeah,
And I
you
think
were
about
not allowed. You were not allowed to ask. Even some promoters would even say it in their meeting before the
right.
show. If there was a big star coming on, do not ask him for photos. You're here to wrestle and blah blah blah.
Isn't that crazy?
Which sucks because like I had an amazing career and I met so many people and yeah,
I
it
think
sucks.
my first picture with a real star, whatever, was when we brought Brett back for like the second time, and we were like, I don't know, nowhere around anyone. I'm like, you mind if I take a picture with you? Because it was like, I don't have a picture with anybody. And nowadays, you go to Impact, and these guys will like wrestle a 30-minute blood feud, and then go backstage and take a selfie with each other. And it's like, oh my God, he thought I was breaking kayfabe by asking The Rock to take a picture. You know what I mean? These two guys just murdered each other and called each other's mothers the worst names ever, and now they're taking a selfie backstage covered in blood.
Yeah, like even when Shane came back to do an Alpha One show, that was 2015 or no, 2016. And the last time I saw him was at
Right,
BCW.
right.
And he remembered me, which blew my mind. But even I was so
Yeah,
embarrassed or like
yeah.
I wanted a picture, but I couldn't work up the courage to ask because in the back of my head I'm like, don't be a mark, don't be like that. You're not allowed to. And I told Josh this. He's like, just ask him. Like, who cares? People
Right.
do that these days. I'm like, it's just where
So
you grew
crazy.
up from.
Josh would know. He's always marking out for people backstage. Like, hey, can I get a picture with Falaba? It's like, dude, get back to work, okay? Back to work.
Oh God.
Josh is so fun. You know what he said? You know what he said to me today on Facebook, which was really nice. It was like, because I always love trying to make Josh. I always try to make Josh laugh in person, and he's such a stonewall, like concrete dude that's like, will not laugh, must not laugh. You know what I mean? Like, me hungry, me eat boiled chicken, and like he writes today, you're the best part of Facebook, which is like the best compliment you can get out of Josh Alexander for sure. Because even like when we're in Vegas and we're eating at the Korean barbecue, and I'm being completely stupid and saying all the stupid things I do, I always just keep looking at Josh because like Ethan will be popping huge, and I just look at Josh, and Josh has this look of what an idiot you are. Like he has this look on his face like I'm a complete idiot, and it's like, is this guy? Am I popping this guy, or does he think I'm a complete moron? Because the look on his face says this guy is a complete moron. But in my heart of hearts, I'm like, this guy thinks I'm so funny when I'm talking like this. Just telling those guys crazy stories at Korean barbecue, and he's just got that look on his face. Like I said, we were at my buddy's house in high school one time, and we were listening to some music. Remember, this is like 1990s, and he's listening to some really lame song. And I said, what are we listening to here? My buddy goes, oh, this is the new Tori Amos. And I go, Tori Amos? I go, it sounds more like torn anus. Right. And my buddy looks straight at me with the same look that Josh gives me and goes, you know something, Kavanaugh? You say some pretty stupid shit sometimes. And that's the look that Josh always gives me whenever I'm talking. So I always appreciate that. He looks at me like, why are you talking? And I'm like, no idea. Try to make you guys laugh, I guess.
He
That's the other thing
appreciates
too,
your humor.
right. Well, I miss seeing all those guys. Like the last time I think I saw Josh and that was when we filmed all that stuff at the Diener compound in like April.
Mm-hmm.
And like to think like I'm used to seeing the boys like all the time. It's been literally a year for most people, and then like 10 months since Josh and Diener and Ethan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so weird, and I feel like I'm getting so old and so fat waiting for this stuff to come back.
Going back to comparing the business from like 15 years ago to now, we said that taking photos was not a thing.
Right.
Handshakes.
Oh my God, those little foo-foo handshakes where you try to like shake people's hand with like the tips of your fingers. That's stupid. So you'll love this. My very first show, okay? No one smartened me up to this stupid wrestler handshake, okay? So now I start training in like May 13th, I started training, I think. And then like June is when I get my first booking as a referee in Cleveland. And the guys who booked me said, "Oh yeah, this guy's been refereeing for 2 years." Like I hadn't even refed a match in my whole life at this point. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, 2 years. Yeah, I'm great at that reffing, whatever that you guys are talking about." And so we go to Cleveland, and I've been taught by my dad, when you're meeting someone for the first time, give them the old, a man's handshake. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
wait,
Like,
stop right there. Stop right there.
yeah, okay.
So let's put in for context. Back then, handshakes, okay? If you are too firm and you squeeze too tight, it means that you're a stiff worker.
Or
If you do a light but not so flimsy, it shows that you're a good worker and
whatever, right? So here's me thinking, okay, well, I've been taught my whole life to shake hands like a man, right? So I'm told when you get there, you go to the locker room, you shake everybody's hand, you say thank you, nice to meet you, thanks for having me, the whole shit. You know what I mean? They tell you all that stuff, but no one tells me to shake your hands like like you're trying to not crack an egg, So here's me. I'm walking around this locker room giving everybody the freaking Brock Lesnar special, right? Yeah, pleasure to meet you, sir, And everybody's looking at me like, holy cow, kid, you're going to rip my shoulder out of the socket. And there was a dude there, Italian, who looked like Super Mario from Super Mario Brothers, like the from the video game cartoon, all that.
What other Super Mario is there?
Right. Well, I don't know. But he wrestled at Super Mario, which I don't think he was legally allowed, but he wrestled with Super Mario. So I shake this guy's hand. I said, "Hey, pleasure to meet you, sir." And he says to me in his Italian accent, he goes, "Ah, you a Mark, huh?" And I'm, "Pardon?" He's like, "Ah, you Mark, right?" I go, "No, not Mark. Jeff. I'm Jeff." He's like, yeah, you Mark. I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't obviously speak English. He thinks my name is Mark, right? And I'm laughing behind his back thinking, what an idiot. He thinks my name is Mark. And meanwhile, it's like, no, I'm the freaking Mark here because I'm over here shaking everybody's hand like Hercules Hernandez. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, stop it. What are you doing? And now I look back at that and I laugh. I almost want to go apologize to Super Mario for shaking his hand so hard. Oh my God. Can you imagine? The guy's like, you Mark. I'm like, no, I'm Jeff, not Mark. Stupid? Do you not understand names? I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? Everyone's like, boy, you don't shake hands with people like that.
Back then, like you said, you were told to shake hands with everybody and make sure you say hi to everybody, introduce yourself. And then leaving, you make sure you say goodbye to everybody and obviously thank those that you worked with that night and obviously the promoter. Nowadays, it's not a thing. And I'm not speaking because it's COVID. I'm just speaking like people are just like, yeah, no, a simple like, hey is good enough.
But you know why though? And this is like, I realized this in my older age. So picture this, okay? We're at Impact. I think we're in like Vegas or Dallas or something. And I'm standing there talking to Scott and we're trying to figure out how we're going to do something. Okay. And some dude from the ring crew, right in the middle of our conversation, walks up and says, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Steve," or whatever, and shakes both of our hands, right? And then walks away. And then we're both kind of just standing there thinking, what were we talking about again? Like it took us right out of, whatever we were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even at the time, Scott's like, who said it was like the thing to do to go shake hands with everybody? Like, we got it, Hi, how are you? And I think now even someone told me in WWE, if you get booked as an extra,
you're not allowed to talk to them.
In the email, it says in there, do not shake hands and say hello to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to think about it. Think about if, let's say, The Miz and John Morrison are standing backstage working on their match, and here comes me. "Oh, hey, fellas, how's it going? My name's Jeff,
Okay,
and
yes, but I mean, it's to your discretion. Like, obviously, you're not going to interrupt. Like, I never did that. If somebody was talking about their match, I wouldn't interrupt. I'd just say my hellos later on if they're wandering around.
You know what else is funny about wrestling that I don't ever really see too much that I used to see all the time? When people would call their match, so they would call their match and then they walk around backstage like a zombie, whispering the spots to themselves, like throwing fake clotheslines to themselves and stuff. And I'm always like, is this how he, like, this is so weird. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it's clothesline, stuck that off the ropes, top the room, catch, throw you in. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I don't know. I can't get with that calling everything ahead of time and then rehearsing it over and over and over in your head for 2 hours before the match starts. So
Hey, some people
weird,
are nervous.
I guess. But like, go out there and do what you do. Here's the thing at this point, and like the other thing too is getting back to the thing, bumps, your bump card. Like back in the day, you go to wrestling school and take 500 bumps in one night. And nowadays, everyone goes in there and hits the ropes twice and stops because like you only got so many bumps on your bump card anymore. You know what I mean? Like I think about taking a bump now and I want to just die thinking about it. I think I would probably be off work for 2 weeks if I took one bump. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So with me giving handshakes, it actually tells me about the type of people that I'm about to meet. So it tells me, okay, am I going to stay away from this person?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I pretty much stayed away from a lot of them backstage and kept to myself, but it just helped me. It helped
Help.
me see their character. And
Right.
so if someone was like, let's say bitchy, like, okay, obviously I'm not going to converse with you or even try to, because I'm a friendly person. Like I will try to talk to you if you're around and like I'm not going to stand there in silence.
Right.
But to me, that's what handshakes were. It was to kind of get a feel and not only get a feel of other people, but let them know that, well, for me, that I'm a genuine person.
Right. You know what? You know what my favorite is? The most ingenuine handshake ever in the wrestling business.
What's that?
It's the no look. Like,
Oh,
you know, the people that don't look at you. Like, so there's, let's say, 6 of us all sitting in a line, and they're shaking my hand saying hello, but looking at you. And
yeah.
then they're shaking your hand and saying hello and looking at Josh. And then shaking Josh's hand, and it's like, dude, do you even know who you said hi to? Do you even know? Did you look at me one time? Like, it's so weird. The no look handshake is the
Yeah.
biggest FU in wrestling.
Yeah. I've had a couple of those. Yeah.
What a case! That's like the biggest way to kayfabe somebody. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay, well, this guy's obviously a knob, so I'm not going to talk to him.
All right, let's take a break from wrestling.
Sure.
Tell me about Junk Food Jeff.
Oh yeah, so Junk Food Jeff is my online presence, my Facebook. I have a Facebook page called Junk Food Jeff and a Twitter, and I'm going to be coming out with a podcast soon called Junk Food Jeff the Podcast. And it's
Ooh.
basically, well, it started when I've always worked in the grocery retail since I was 15 because it allowed me flexibility to go do wrestling shows on the weekend where I could work during the week, but then do wrestling shows on the weekend. So I always worked in grocery stores because it was flexible. You start to get like, you know, a new Oreo comes out or a new cereal or whatever. And I wanted to, so I would put on my regular Jeff Kavanaugh Facebook, hey, look at this new cereal that's coming out, right?
Mhm.
And I started noticing that the more food stuff I started posting on my personal page, the less my friends were engaging on my posts. And I'm like, I think I'm burning people out with my food page, you know what I mean? Like with my food posts. I should just get a Facebook that's strictly for the food. And then anyone that wants to, you know, see it can. And whoever doesn't, I'm not going to torture them with having to look at, you know, the new Dorito of the month, you know? So I started.
Which I will say, you just told me about it. And so I went and liked it right away and I regret it because now
That's what
I
everybody.
freaking want everything that you're posting.
I know. So the best part is, so my page slowly turned into, hey, look at the stuff I found, to, hey, look at the stuff I found, and look at the stuff I found online that's coming out soon. And I found that I was the only person who really was like posting it at the time when I first started this. Now there's a whole bunch of different junk food blogs and stuff, you know, a lot of people, like, there'll be an ice cream blog, a pop blog, a candy blog, a chip blog. So what I do for mine is I kind of just make mine based on like snacks from Canada and the United States that are coming out. That's kind of like the niche.
Yep.
So then our mutual friend of ours, Mark McKenzie, who used to be Web
Yes.
Jimmy, Do you remember website? We used to call him Website Jimmy because Scott couldn't remember his name, and he was the guy that did the website. So Scott would call him Website Jimmy. And then so Website Jimmy ended up getting into radio, and he ended up getting his own show in like Thunder Bay. And then he moved to Windsor, and he was just like the like alternative morning guy. Like if the morning guys didn't show up kind of thing, it was like, he would go on the air kind of thing. That's when there was Dave and Chuck the Freak, which are pretty famous radio DJs. He was kind of like their underling. Mm-hmm. And then when they left to go to Detroit bring their show to Detroit, he called me on a Sunday afternoon and said, they just told me they're giving me the morning show. And I have no idea of what the hell I'm going to talk about tomorrow on the radio. Like he has basically had his own show starting the next day with no format, no ideas, no nothing. And I said, well, if there's anything I can help you with, I said, I'm good with writing jokes. I said, I can come on there and I can talk about junk food. Like I can kill time. Like, you know what I mean? You just have to put a mic in front of me and I can talk, as you can tell from this hour-long conversation we just had. And he's like, okay, sweet. So at the time, my page was called Junk Food Dog, based off of like Junkyard Dog.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I wanted it to be about wrestling and thing. And he was like, just to let you know that if this Junk Food Dog thing catches on, people are probably going to start buying you stuffed dogs and all this other stuff. And he's like, if you don't like dogs, you should probably change your name before we go on the radio, because
Smart
then once you got your name, you got your name. And I said, well, why not just be Junk Food Jeff? That's my name. And it's not hard to figure out. And when people say, hey, Jeff, you know what I mean? I know they're talking about me. I'm not like saying my name is Junk Food Frank. And then I got to like pretend to be Frank when I'm not, you know what I mean? So I started doing his morning show, and I did his morning show for a couple of years, became like part of like his like, cast of characters for his morning show, to the point where like I was like introducing bands at concert as Junk Food Jeff and stuff, which was kind of really blew my mind.
Wow, that's fun. Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of neat. So it was like, we were kind of having like a good little thing going here. And then me and him had a bit of a falling out like 2 years ago, and we never talked. Like we just basically stopped talking, and I stopped doing the radio show. I didn't talk to him for over 2 years until I found out that the radio station got shut down and everybody got fired.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him just to say, hey, man, I heard what happened. It kind of sucks. I know that things were kind of shitty between me and you, but, I just don't want to reach out and, say it kind of sucks that you lost your job. And he basically said, hey, the morning show, like basically the morning show they were doing on the radio, he said, we're thinking about doing it as a podcast instead. If you want like to come on and be a guest, and we can air our grievances on there. So early December, I went on the Mark and Chris podcast, and we literally on the podcast aired out all our problems we had with each other from 2 years ago.
Wow.
And we got, we're guys, so we were over it right away. Like once we aired it out on the podcast, I was fine with it. And I've been back to do their show about once a month since. I think now I'm going to bump it up to probably like 2 or 3 times a month now that I've got more time on my hands.
Yeah.
And also, he's also teaching me how to do the podcasting so I can start that Junk Food Jeff podcast. And basically what I'm going to do with that podcast is talk junk food for the first half, and then the second half just BS, kind of like the way me and you are now. I'll have different people.
We'll I can't wait.
So if you like the food part, you can turn it off after we're done talking about food. If you want to hear some funny anecdotes and stories and stuff, then that's what the plan for that podcast is going to be. And I'm also going to start doing some YouTube videos. I have a guy that goes to the States still. He's an essential worker, not a wrestler or anything, a truck driver. And I give him a list of junk that I'm looking for. And he stops somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania or something at a Walmart for me, picks up whatever he can find off my list. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start doing video blogs of me opening the boxes that he gets me with all the random ass crap in it. And we'll try some of it.
Damn.
And yes, I'm planning on doing the Junk Food Jeff podcast and the Junk Food Jeff. I'm going to have a YouTube page, Facebook videos, just trying new crazy stuff.
So he's like your dealer.
Yes. I always, whenever I post, I'm like, another delivery from my dealer, more contraband, more contraband from the United States.
So you have to have him on for at least one episode.
Right. Well, and we'll have to blur his voice. We'll get one of those like sound things that blur his voice. You know, those things where it's like, they put like a
Scary.
blue dot over your face, and then they put the things so you can't tell who they are. That's we'll have to get him on there. Oh, I got Mark on there. We'll have to get you on there. We'll have to get we can see if we can get Josh to, put 5 minutes together he can regale us with hilarious tales of the wrestling business.
Oh, if you tell me some of the snacks, I'll get Josh to look for them, and then he'll bring some home too if he can find them, and then we'll taste them together during the podcast.
You see, so the other day I'll let the listeners in on this. He posted a thing on Facebook telling the other wrestlers, hey, if you want to, try something crazy, try doing what I do, cut up pieces of chicken and boil it in chicken and beef broth and hot sauce, right? And I can understand because I know I lived with, I've had roommates, John Bolin, Joe Doring, all these guys live with me and they eat their weird wrestler food, like ground turkey with whole wheat pasta, eggs and mustard, and, eating that kind of crazy crap. So when I see Josh talking about his boiled chicken with hot sauce, whatever, so just to be the way I am, I messaged him and I said, "What prison did you get this recipe from?" Right? And he's like, "Hey, bro, you got to eat like this if you want to look good naked." And I said to him, "Well, I'd rather look bad naked and eat fried chicken." I said, "Besides, no one has to I don't have to look at me naked." And he wrote back, "Touche." So I know that he's probably mad. He's quietly mad that he's not allowed to eat fried chicken like I am, but I think he's quietly happy that he doesn't look like I do. The pluses and minuses. And you know what else is funny about Josh too is I thought because Johnny, he trained with Divine, and Divine brought him and someone else to one of our shows, like an outdoor show we did. And I was under the impression that this was like one of Josh's first matches, right?
Yeah.
And I was going to bring up on the podcast, like, oh yeah, remember your husband had one of his first matches at our show. And then I looked up his thing on Cage Match, and that son of a bitch had wrestled for like 3 or 4 years before that when he was doing that Jay Phoenix stuff. And I had no idea that was him.
Oh.
So it's just so funny.
Was it Maximum Pro, that one?
No, it was a Border City show.
Oh.
It was a sandwich fest, and it was outside a bar. I'm trying to remember if it'll probably be on Cage Match. And it was hilarious because one of our sponsors was called Fat and Fabulous. It was like clothes for like bigger people. You know what I mean? Like for like bigger women. So no word of a lie. Me and Scott are doing commentary at a table with a banner on front of it that says Fat and Fabulous on the front of it. And no one has any idea. They just think that that's like me and Scott's tag team name or something. I have no idea. They didn't think that it was a website to buy fat women clothes on. They just thought it was like me and Scott's nickname or something. And I remember thinking like, can we burn all the pictures off the internet of me and you sitting behind a banner that says Fat and Fabulous on it? That would be great. I'd appreciate that.
Oh my gosh. Please find it and post it.
2009. Josh Alexander defeats Mike Rollins. September 13th, 2009. Brad Martin and Nate Matson. Turkan Selleck and CK3. Phil Atlas against Kushida. John Bolin against Duvall. And Petey Williams against Tyson Dukes on that show. 12 years ago when Kushida was on that show. Isn't that crazy? And Josh was on that show. Like, look at the people that were on that show. It's so crazy. Yeah. Petey Williams. Yeah, the good old days. I wonder why he never kept the name Jay Phoenix. Was it because he knew that Ray Phoenix was going to come around and that's a way better name than Jay Phoenix?
Well, Jeff, if you're a good friend and actually paid attention to my very first episode.
Yeah.
He said Jay Phoenix was the same name of some wrestler that stole from somebody.
Oh.
He was advised to change his name.
Oh, well, that makes sense then, I guess. Yeah, because he's Josh Alexander on the show in 2012.
There you go. All right, let's play some this or that.
Sure.
All right. Mexican food or Korean barbecue?
Ooh, shoot. Okay, so The one thing I like the most in the entire world is melted cheese. I will eat
Oh,
melted cheese of any kind, sort, smell, flavor, you name it. I just love melted cheese. And when I think Mexican food, and I'm sure if you go to Mexico, they don't have melted cheese on anything. But when you eat the bastardized American style Mexican, like quesadillas and stuff like that, I love.
hmm.
But at the same time, I love Korean barbecue. I love bibimbap. I love, I just love all that stuff.
Yeah, it's hard.
So, so if I had to pick one to eat forever, I'd probably have to pick Mexican food just because I love melted cheese so much. But Korean food is probably Korean and Chinese is probably second to Mexican and Italian to me as far as I just love food. If you haven't noticed, if you look at me, you know what I
Well,
mean?
this is why this or that is based on all foods.
Yeah. So
Um,
I'm say Mexican. I'm gonna go with Mexican on this one, and I may live to regret it.
w- okay. I choose Korean barbecue because it's something that I don't get to eat often. But I'm with you. I love cheese. I used to microwave cheddar cheese and just eat it like that.
I
So
know.
good.
I used to
So good.
melt Kraft singles and eat it with my like until it turned into liquid, and like eat it with my finger. It's like what a loser. I love melted cheese though so much. Italian food like a chicken parm with a nice melted mozzarella on top.
I'm starving. Stop.
Oh, well, you're the one that does a podcast at 9 o'clock at night, and you live with a guy that boils chicken for a dinner. So what do you ain't getting anything good.
Ice cream or donuts?
Rick, you're really killing me with these. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to go with oh my god. Man, oh man. I'm
No,
gonna
this
go
is
with
simple. This is simple.
no, it's not because if you go to like an old fashioned donut place that still makes their own donuts and fries them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm talking like Tim Hortons thaw a freaking pre-baked donut. Like that's a snore. But I mean, if you go to one of these old school bakeries that has like the sit-up counter with coffee for 35 cents and a fried apple fritter, or like a cinnamon bun with chocolate melted on top, is the best. But at the same time, nothing beats like when you eat like a nice meal and you sit down and crush a bowl of ice cream, like Cherry Garcia or like President's Choice, chocolate crackle with the candy cane in it, like that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, that one is good.
Oh my god,
You
so
gotta
good.
choose one now.
Okay, you're
Wait,
killing me, man.
are you
I'm
into
gonna go
those like
with
fancy donuts?
no because I'm not a
Yeah.
big. One thing I hate more than anything in the world is sprinkles. I hate that sugary bite of like a sprinkle for some reason. Like I just that's a texture thing and more of like a sugar bomb thing. And a
But
lot of those weird donuts.
it's tiny.
Yeah, but then you ever take like a whole like you know bite full of a bunch of what do they call those things? Sparkles, sprinkles. I almost said sparkles.
Sprinkles.
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 Oh my god, that's just pure torture to me. So you know what? I'm gonna go with ice cream. I'm gonna go with ice
Yeah,
cream. But
that's a
I
good
do like
choice.
myself a good old fashioned donut.
Okay, what flavor ice cream?
Honestly, my favorite of all time is probably that President's Choice candy cane crackle,
Yeah.
and luckily it only comes out once a year, or else I would just destroy cartons and cartons of that. But other than that, I like anything chocolate, anything peanut butter, anything chocolate peanut butter, and like they even had. I had one that I got in the States before. It was banana peanut butter that was really good. Yeah, I like ice cream and I like chocolate and I like peanut butter.
Yeah, I'm a pretty plain person. I like pure chocolate ice cream.
Yeah,
But from the ice cream truck, I like the swirl.
right. And get like a yeah,
The ha
like a
It's the
twist.
half, yeah, the twist, exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a half chocolate, half vanilla. So good.
that's a good call.
Okay. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles. I love me a waffle. Pancakes. After about two or three of them, I'm bored of them. Whereas a waffle, I'm all about it. Give me all the waffles. Throw chicken on there. You can even like you make me any kind of waffle. I'll crush a waffle. Put strawberries all over it, whipped cream. I'll eat that. Put chicken and hot sauce on it. I'll eat that. put ham and cheese and green onions inside of it, I'll eat that too. I'll eat any waffle you give me. I even made waffles out of leftover stuffing from Thanksgiving. You just take the leftover stuffing, put it in a waffle maker, close it till it crisps, then put sliced turkey, cranberry sauce, and gravy on it. Eat that with a knife and fork. Boom.
Wow. I was just
Yeah.
gonna say I'm not a waffle person, but you describing that, yeah, I need to try that.
Oh, you got to try it. Yeah, it's so awesome.
Dang. Chocolate or candy?
The only really candy that I really like is like Maynard's brand, like
The sour
Sour Patch
watermelon?
Kids
Yeah.
and sour watermelons and red berries and Swedish berries and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the only candy I like. But as far as chocolate, I love like Reese cups. I love Take 5 bars. I like all the crazy M&Ms. I like
Wonder Bar?
What Wonder Bar?
Yeah.
Is Wonder Bar your favorite?
It used to be. Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you in on a secret. This will be a first for your podcast. Anyone that listens, if you live in Canada and you love Wonder Bar, Oreo is coming out with a limited edition Wonder Bar flavored Oreo this summer in Canada only.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's have like Wonder Bar flavored peanut butter and chocolate cream in between the chocolate cookies.
Oh.
So there's a little junk food Jeff for you. I love Wonder Bars. I love anything peanut butter, and I love that weird crackly whatever crap's in that makes it taste kind of crunchy.
Yeah.
Almost
It's like a rice cake or something?
Right. I don't know what it is.
Fiberglass.
Yeah, I don't know if it's fiberglass, but it sure tastes crunchy.
So
But yeah,
good.
Wonder Bar is a good solid bar. And if you're American and you're like, Wonder Bar, come to Canada, man. We got the Wonder Bar here for you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
peanut butter, caramel,
It's
and like
chewy. So good.
right? Just be something or other in there, or fiberglass. We're not sure. Covered in chocolate, and it's pretty dope.
Steak or lobster?
Oh, steak all day.
Not a seafood guy?
I'm a steak freak. I can cook steak like a savage.
Oh, I remember after the BCW show, we all partied at your house.
Yes.
And you barbecued everything, and you had like crazy. The guy had everything you could think of.
Dude, I love cooking so much. Like, we had the people from Pro Wrestling Noah come to Windsor, like Marufuji and like the president, like the big wigs of Pro Wrestling Noah came. And Scott's like, I want you to cook like a memorable Canadian feast for these people. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So I frickin' made the most Canadian thing I made the most Canadian food they could possibly imagine. And they loved every bite of it. And I get off on like watching people eat my food and like enjoying it. Like, people when like they have a match and people watch it and they're like, oh man, you're awesome stuff. I feel the same way about when I cook for people. I just get a good feeling about it. And I think like everything I know about food, I learned from either my mom or from like watching Food Network and like watching how to cook and stuff and reasons why certain things, like learning about balance, learning about salt and acid and spicy and sweet and balancing all those things together. And I think my cooking's getting even better and better as I get older. To the point where like Scott came back from the Impact tapings and he calls me and he's like, can you come over and cook me dinner? I said, sure. So I went over and cooked him dinner and he says, I don't know if the food at the hotel is just bad or if your food is just really good, but I've effing love your food. You know what I mean? So that makes me feel good.
Damn, can you come up to our place?
Sure. With Corona done, I'll be there. I'll bring as much boiled chicken and hot sauce as I can fit in my car.
Well, the funny thing is, Josh is just like you. He loves watching the Food Network.
Right.
And so he knows like about flavors and stuff like that.
But they try to eat healthy and it's like, it's hard, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you look at some of these steaks, like I go buy like a Wagyu ribeye steak and the thing's like $50 for one, but you can cut it with a butter knife and you eat it and you just think to yourself, like, I can't believe that this, like when I eat a steak like that, I just think to myself, like, I can't believe this exists and I'm eating it and it tastes so good. Like, I will never eat another grocery store steak again. Like once you start going to a butcher shop and getting steak from like a butcher shop, you'll never want to eat grocery store meat again. I sound kind of snobbish, but like I don't drink or do drugs or smoke or anything, so all my
You're
money
just
goes
really
to
passionate
about food,
with your food. Yeah.
right? And like my friends will go out for a night and spend like $40 on like, oh, you drank a pitcher of beer, you know, and this and that. And there's me asking, "Are your stuffed mushrooms?" Blah blah blah. Like I'm all about like the food there. You know what I mean? Give me a diet pop and all the food for $40. I'll take that over a pitcher of beer any
Dang.
night, any
Well,
night of the week.
if you're up by our area, you are more than welcome to come visit.
Well, once Corona is done, I'm in Hamilton for either wrestling or toy shows like 25 times a year. So once Corona's done, let's plan it. I'll come and I'll cook you guys a nice feast.
Sweet. You could stay over too. We have
Oh
an
yeah,
extra room.
yeah. You can sleep in the extra room. Me and Josh can spoon in your lover bed.
Oh, let's do it. And then let's record your podcast.
Right from in the bed, all three of us under the cover.
Eating snacks. Come on.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
there we go. That's our new vlog idea.
There you go. There you go.
Interrupting Josh and Jen's marriage by Jeffrey Scott.
Okay, last one. Potato chips or fries?
Potato chips all day. I'm the chip king. I don't know if I've even exposed this. I don't know if you even know this. I have, it's not 100% confirmed, but I'm 99% sure, the biggest Pringles collection in the entire world. I have my entire office upstairs. The walls are covered with different flavors of Pringles that I've collected over the last like 15 years.
Jeez.
And I'm up to, and somebody, I'll do it for you. How many different flavored Pringle cans? So I eat the chips, or someone will eat. I'm at the point where I don't even barely eat them anymore because I'm sick of Pringles because I had so many. But I will take the empty can and display it in my office. How many different flavors do you think I have in my collection?
I feel like it has to be a ridiculous number.
Okay.
So, but what's popping out is 64?
64, you think?
Yes.
Okay. I will tell you, my collection is at about, I haven't counted it this year yet, but it's somewhere around 380
oh
to
my God.
390 different flavors of Pringles.
What?
Yes. So do you want to hear that story, or am I going on too long?
No, let's hear it.
Okay,
I didn't even know there was that many.
Exactly. So you remember Joe Legend?
Yes.
Joey Legend. So when Joey Legend moved to Windsor, I said, "Hey, if you want help moving, I don't mind helping you out." So I helped him move, and I was unpacking some of his boxes, and I unpacked a can of Pringles, and it was paprika flavor. And I said, "Oh wow!" I said, "Paprika flavored Pringles." I said, "What's that all about?" And he said, "Oh, in Germany they don't have barbecue. Like they don't know what barbecue sauce is in Europe. They don't have barbecue sauce, so they don't because they don't use barbecue sauce on stuff. That's strictly an American thing, right?" He goes, "So, but they use a lot of like red pepper sauce and like stuff like that, paprika. So they just call their barbecue chips paprika flavored, but they're a little bit slightly different. They mostly just taste like red peppers, obviously." And I said to him, "Oh man, that's a really cool can. You know, would you mind? Can I have it? I just want to show some people." And he's like, "Yeah, knock yourself out." So I took the can and I brought it to work, and I was showing people like, "Hey, look at this. My buddy brought this from Germany. You know, it's a can of Pringles from Germany and it's paprika flavored." And everyone's like, "Weird. That's really weird." Well, luckily I brought that to work because the lady at work a week later went to Mexico on vacation. And when she came back, she brought me 2 weird flavors from Mexico that I'd never seen before. It was like jalapeno and sour cream was one. And I think ham and cheese, I think, was the other one. And I was like, "Holy shit." I'm like, where did you get that?" She's like, "Oh, in Mexico, I found it. And you had brought that German one in, so I brought these for you."
Aw.
So that became a thing where people would go on vacation and they would on purpose try to find me bizarre flavors of Pringles from like foreign countries. Well, for a while, Joe Doring lived with me for about 5 years, and he would go to Japan for 3 weeks out of the month and then come stay at my place for a week, and then go back to Japan for 3 and come stay at my place for a week. So every time he'd come back, he'd bring back 4 or 5 weird Japanese Pringles like blueberry sesame and honey roasted chicken and blueberry and hazelnut, like weird
Whoa.
flavors. So it started to the point where I'm like, well, I should start keeping track of all the ones I have, right? And before you know it, 15 years later, I'm up to almost 400 different flavors. Like they just came
Jeez.
out with in Canada, Wendy's Baconator flavored Pringles that taste like a Wendy's Baconator.
Yeah, yeah.
They just came out with that, but I tried it. It just tastes like bacon and cheese. But it's cool canned regardless.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm a big potato chip. Getting back to your original question, I much prefer Doritos. They're my favorite chip of all time. But if I have to pick between chips or fries, I'm definitely going to pick chips based on how
Your
much I love
collection.
Pringles
Yeah.
and all the weird chips that come out, like that they come out with.
Josh just bought me, he just found hot mustard Pringles.
Yes. Those came out the same time as the Baconator ones. So they're out for like probably 3 to 6 months, and then they'll be gone and they'll bring out a different limited edition one. But also in the
Oh,
States, like Walgreens has their own flavor, CVS will have their own flavor, Target will have their own flavor, Walmart will have their own flavor. So I got to go over there and get them all the time. Like I've got like Dollar General came out with last year chicken and waffles Pringles, and I never got to try them. But Bravo went to Dollar General and bought me 2 cans, so they're slowly staling at his house, waiting for me to get over there. But yeah, I get all sorts of crazy kinds. Like they just came out with 3 new flaming hot flavors from the States that we aren't getting here that I got for my collection.
oh,
If you check out, like I said, if you check out Junk Food Jeff on Facebook, I'll post more pictures of my collection this week just so everyone can put a visual to what the hell I'm talking about here. I went to
yes.
IKEA. I went to IKEA and bought about 100 picture ledges because they fit a can of Pringles perfectly on it, and I have hanging all over my office around all the walls. It's just covered in Pringles.
Crazy. Guys, definitely follow it because if you appreciate food, you will appreciate all of Jeff's findings and tips onto what's coming out, right? What's releasing.
Yeah, and the best part is because I worked in the grocery stores. You know what I mean? I know a lot of like the sales reps and stuff, and they'll give me a lot of inside information, and that's where I like to blurt it all out. I know every year when they do the Frito-Lay does the contest where they do choose a new flavor. I always know the results ahead of time and I post them, and people from Frito-Lay get so mad at me because I ruin their little contest every year because someone will give me the inside information and I post it. And then I get a message. Who did you hear that from? Where are you getting your information from? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like what's the Watergate scandal of chips? You know what I mean? Like, how did you find out about Doritos? You know what I mean? But I
Yes.
got all these people. So if anyone from Frito-Lay is listening, you have a lot of dudes that work for you, and they tell me everything.
Yeah, if Frito-Lay is actually listening to my podcast for some
I promise
reason.
I'll kick Jeff off if you give me a sponsorship. Eat Smart Food. Boy, isn't that a great popcorn? Smart Food. You want to hear a crazy food nerd story about Smart Food popcorn while we're just on the topic of food?
Yeah.
I'll make it quick. So this is how Smart Food popcorn was invented, okay? So this guy and his buddy were inventing a new kind of Ziploc bag, like a resealable bag. And they were going to go to Walmart and try to get Walmart in the States to buy their bags to sell. So back in the day, you used to be able to go to Walmart with your idea and pitch them, and they would say, we'll take it. We'll take 3 million cases of it. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's done a little bit differently, but it's basically, you give them an idea, and if they like it, they'll either steal it or buy it off of you, one of the two. So this guy was going to his meeting with Walmart, and he thought, well, I don't want to bring just an empty Ziploc bag to this meeting. So he asked his wife to make some white cheddar popcorn that she makes because, everyone enjoys it, her recipe. So he's at the Walmart pitch meeting and he's pitching his, Ziploc bags of some kind. And the people at Walmart are just woofing down this guy's popcorn, right? Asking him, did you bring any more of this popcorn? He's like, no, I didn't. It's something my wife made. And they said, well, we're not really interested in the bags, but we'd really be interested in selling this popcorn if you're interested in selling the popcorn. So this guy goes home and tells his wife, okay, well, the meeting went okay, but, now I'm not in the bag business anymore. I'm in the popcorn business. Now we need to start selling more of this popcorn. So they released their popcorn to Walmart under the name Smart Food Popcorn. Frito-Lay comes along and says, whoa, 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 we don't really like anybody in our business. How much to buy you out? And they agreed to a certain amount of millions of dollars. And they gave, this guy and his wife a couple $1 million to buy the Smart Food recipe and for them to use the name. They took that money and started Annie's Organics, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with Annie's Organics.
Yeah.
They make
Yeah.
gummies and mac and cheese and stuff like that. Well, the mac and cheese powder, the white cheddar, is the exact same recipe as her white cheddar Smart Food popcorn recipe.
Oh.
So if you eat Annie's white cheddar macaroni and cheese, it tastes exactly like Smart Food popcorn, but without the corn part in it.
Interesting.
So there you go. Belle Biv DeVoe. Now you know.
Dang.
Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff that's inside my brain, waiting to get out. Stories like that. So here you go. This is a see you next Tuesday exclusive about Smart Food popcorn.
So before doing this podcast, Josh is like, you're going to have such a good time. Like, you're going to be talking to him for a couple hours. And I started laughing because we are actually, I didn't realize we were going to talk the song, which is amazing. The entire 2 weeks was it when we finally set a date on when we were going to do the podcast?
Right.
Like, anytime we would talk, I would just say, nope, stop talking to me. Like, save it for the podcast. Like, stop talking to me.
Right. My favorite was when I said something to you and you wrote, quit talking to me in all capital letters. And I'm like, okay. I'll save it for the podcast. But yeah, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. I wonder if anyone's still listening. Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? Shut the lights off on your way out the door, please.
Before we go, I want to play one more game.
Sure.
We're going to play my Survivor Series game.
Okay.
But for you, you have to choose 4 other comedians you would have on your team.
Yeah, are we doing a 4-man team or a 5-man team?
It's 5-man, but you're the 5th man.
Okay, I'm the 5th man. So on my team, Jim Gaffigan, my favorite comedian of all time, followed by Brian Regan. You ever heard of Brian Regan? He
No.
does a bit about calling an ambulance for yourself. Like when like you're at home and you don't feel good and you're like, I should probably go to the hospital. But like you also think like maybe I shouldn't drive myself to the hospital. He does this whole bit about calling an ambulance for yourself. Like he goes, I always feel weird calling an ambulance for myself. Like, hey, I'm not feeling so hot. Can you come get me? You know what I mean? So you got to look him up. Brian Regan, Regan. Look his stuff up. Jim Gaffigan. Those 2 are my favorite. Anthony Jeselnik.
Yes.
Who is like I
love his humor.
You have to have a taste for Anthony Jeselnik. If there's any like moms or anyone listening, do not listen to any Anthony Jeselnik jokes in front of your family, or else
definitely not his Netflix special. But he's got such dark humor. Like, I love it.
Oh, dark. And I've listened to. I have like most of his CDs memorized, and it's some of that stuff is just so. Oh my God! Like when he said that when he was a kid, all he wanted to be was a veterinarian, until he grew up and found out that there's more to being a veterinarian than just putting down dogs all day.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like, wow, out of left field joke that you're like, wow, I'm not expecting that. So there's me, Gaffigan, Regan, Jeselnik, and I need to pick one more.
Yeah.
I'd probably go with like a classic, like a Norm Macdonald. Like I'm a really fan of like old Saturday Night Live Norm, really dry wit Norm Macdonald. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, good.
He's
so
like,
Josh will be listening. So there's a few comedians for us to check out.
Yes. Yeah, you got to listen to Jim Gaffigan. He's the one that does all the Hot Pockets jokes. You've ever heard any of his jokes about Hot Pockets?
No.
Oh my God. So he does this whole bit about Hot Pockets, like those things from the States, those like little
yeah, like pizza pockets?
Yes, but they're like made with like they have breakfast Hot Pockets and they have like, steak ones and everything. And he's in his bit, he's like, yeah, they got new breakfast Hot Pockets out now. He's like, so now you wake up, you eat a breakfast Hot Pocket, and then you call in sick to work. Just that kind of stuff just makes me laugh so much. Picturing eating a breakfast Hot Pocket and then immediately calling in sick to work afterward. Like, I'm not going to be able to make it today. I had a breakfast Hot Pocket. Oh my god, hot pockets. He'll do that. Wait till you see that thing. Look up Jim Gaffigan hot pockets when we get off the air, and you'll love
Okay,
that.
definitely.
Yep.
Let us
Dave,
know where we can find you again.
yep. So on Facebook at Junk Food Jeff, on Twitter at Junk Food Jeff, and if you want to follow my wrestling career on Twitter, it's at Jeff Kavanaugh, Kavanaugh. It'll say Drum Boy on there. I tried to get at Drum Boy because why wouldn't I? And some dude, okay, registered the name in like 2011. And I looked at his account and he posted, trying out this Twitter thing. And then like 6 hours later, he writes, this sucks. I'm out of here. And he's
Oh,
never posted again since.
and he
So
kept the name.
so I contacted Twitter and they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. We can't give you any old usernames unless the person, whatever. I'm like, oh, but it would be so good if I could just have at Drumboy. It'd be so much better than
Why
at
don't you
Jeff.
message him?
I don't know if the guy would even get it. He hasn't posted in 10 years. What do you think the chances are that he's still paying attention? I guess I could try. It's
Maybe
like
he'll
when I
get
call,
like an email notification, you know?
or I'll call him like I did Chuck Fader. I'll look up his name in the phone book.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, you don't know me. Please don't call the police, but I have a quick question for you. Would you like to give up your username? Who is this?
Do it. Do it. I really want to know if.
Yeah, I will. And now someone listening is going to go and usurp my name. They're like, I'm Drumboy now, and I want $1 million for it because I listened to that podcast. You can find me, and like I said, well, once I get my podcast and my videos off the ground, we'll have you on there, and we'll have your people if they want to hear more about junk food. Check it out.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
and it's
all
also
for it.
if you want to see a whole bunch of new chips, cookies, crackers, candy, fast food. Like, oh, you know what else I'm so excited about too? And I wish that I could go to Nashville and you can tell Josh, I see their little cheat meals they have in Nashville. And they're test marketing a new taco only in Nashville at Taco Bell. And I want Josh to like eat it and tell me everything about it. So you know how like all these places now are coming up with their chicken sandwich to copy the Popeyes chickens or like Popeyes has a chicken sandwich and McDonald's and KFC and everybody came up with their new chicken sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now Taco Bell is test marketing a taco called the famous chicken sandwich taco. And it's basically just a breaded chicken finger inside like a small puffy tortilla. It looks almost like a pita with like sauce on the inside. It looks so good. And I want Josh to eat one and tell me all about it. I want to live vicariously through him.
There you go.
Tell him in turn, I'll make my own boiled version and I'll tell him what it was like here.
There you go. There you go, Jeff. Thank you so much. I definitely want you on again. I want to do a whole like junk food thing. This is so exciting.
We'll plan a thing where we'll get the same junk food and we will eat it together and we'll try it out and see what we think. What do you think?
Yeah. So let me know so I can.
We'll wait a month. I'll think of new stuff that's coming out and I'll tell you where it is, what it is, and where to get it. And then we'll do a live on air eating of it.
Oh. So
and then
cool.
The whole time you can send me a picture of Josh looking at me with that condescending look on his face. And then the whole time I'm eating, I can shame eat the food. You know what I mean? Where he's looking at me like, I can't believe you're eating that, you fat pig. And I'm like, I like Doritos.
Okay, Jeff, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. And good luck with your show. And if I'll make sure I'll promote it to everybody. And I want everybody that's listening to check out my thing and let's make everyone a huge success. Okay.
Yes, I love it. Thank you. That's it for episode 5. Until then, see you next Tuesday.